Chilton Rory was the better Rory version. It annoys me so much when people are saying like, oh, she's a gaslighter. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have missed making videos on the channel. I've been kind of MIA these past few months. I apologize. I'm gonna try to be more consistent with posting. But a few videos ago, I posted a living like Rory Gilmore for a day, and that really had me thinking because I finished a full watch of the show and I'm currently doing a rewatch. I wanted to discuss a very debated topic within the Gilmore Girls fandom, which is the rise and fall of Rory Gilmore. How it happened, when it happened, is she a good character, is she not, is she a good person, is she not? I had a lot to say on the topic. Of course, these are just my opinions. Let's get into it. But before we do, I have an announcement. I now have a cinematic channel on YouTube. It's called Ellienoor Films, and on that channel I post cinematic content like reels and vlogs and just cinematic videos so I can practice cinematography and directing and film. It's something I love doing. I recently posted a beach sort of reel. I was super proud of it, so you guys should definitely go check it out. So definitely go subscribe to that channel, subscribe to this one if you haven't already, and yeah, let's get right into this video. Okay, so I'm just gonna start off with a spoiler warning. This is gonna talk about events in both Gilmore Girls and A Year in the Life. When it comes to analyzing Rory Gilmore's character, we first have to think about what made her so likable. And I think the main thing that comes to mind especially when we see her throughout the first 3 seasons, was that she was real. She was a teenage girl. She was going through her first experiences with romantic love. She was unashamed of her love for reading and books. She had an idea of what she wanted to do. Okay, I want to go to Harvard. I want to become a journalist. And she was just honestly proud of her love of learning and her desire to excel in school. I know Lorelai and Rory had this sort of debate going on in the episode in season 1 where Rory gets hit by a deer. Lorelai and Rory go out to look for the deer after school, and Lorelai's saying, well, like, when did we even have this conversation about Harvard? Was this just an expectation that I threw onto you? So growing up, I watched Gilmore Girls sporadically, and I found myself really relating to Rory Gilmore and being able to sympathize with her character easily. Or a lot of girls, including myself, found ourselves in Rory, found a piece of ourselves in Rory. Secondly, what made her so real was that she made mistakes, and she knew she made mistakes. And okay, so I say this for like the first 3 seasons. She would understand when she did something wrong, and she would apologize for it. She would try to correct her mistakes for the most part, from what I remember. I'm gonna be so honest with you guys, and I think this might spark some controversy, but do I think Rory was entirely in the wrong for missing Lorelai's graduation? No, I do not. Because, okay, yes, she wanted to go see Jess, and yes, she skipped school. Okay, that was totally impulsive. But here's the thing, she had an idea. She was like, okay, I'm gonna get on this bus back home so that way I can be there in time for the graduation. Could she have planned better and taken a little bit of an earlier bus? Yeah, she definitely could have, because just to be on the safe side, just so if there were any delays, if there was traffic, you know, yes, she should have been a little bit more responsible in that sense. But knowing that she was 16, she handled herself pretty well in that situation, and she apologized profusely to Lorelai. Was the graduation a really bad day to pick it? Yes, but it wasn't entirely her fault for missing the graduation. Okay, and also, on a side note, Amy Sherman-Palladino's dialogue, the way she writes dialogue between the characters is absolutely incredible. It's so real. It's very much like as a conversation would go. Let's get into why so many people have a problem with Rory Gilmore, and there is a lot. I try to get some key points. Almost a year ago. Hold on. I finished watching the show almost a year ago, so this is... But as I said, I'm doing a rewatch, but I'm still in season 1, so I might not remember the tiniest of details. What I first want to talk about is how Rory is considered the golden child. She's very academic, very book smart. People were very quick to label her, she's perfect, or she's golden, she can't make mistakes. And she's actually come to believe that. So obviously once she was thrust into Chilton, once she was thrust into Yale, and she was making these mistakes, or when she was thrown into these world experiences where she was tested and where she faced failure and where she faced setbacks, she was scared of that, and it really affected her character, and obviously I think is kind of what made her so entitled at the same time. She was scared of failure, and she was scared to put in so much work only to turn out not how she wanted to become. This one lady on TikTok came up on my For You page, and she was talking about being the golden child and how those gifted children are being addressed. From what I remember, she was saying, when we address children as quote-unquote gifted, and we look at them only for their academic achievements, then they are afraid to make mistakes. They will end up putting a lot of stress on themselves. They might not even go as far as cheating just so they don't have to face that failure, because they have those expectations thrust on them by their peers, their family, their friends, and themselves. So instead, what people should be doing is looking at those gifted children and complimenting them not on their smarts, not on their intelligence. It's more on complimenting them on their pursuits towards those achievements. Like, oh, you're so perseverant, or I'm very proud of your determination to, you know, finish this or to accomplish this. And I guess that approach, especially towards academically gifted children, makes them unafraid of failure and makes them proud that, okay, well, at least I tried and I did my best. And yes, maybe this didn't work out, but that was a learning experience. It's more of them being appreciated for the effort that they put in throughout that journey versus just what they achieved. So Rory didn't have that. And I think, like many gifted children growing up, when they're exposed to failure, it's scary. And I think that's exactly what threw her off so much when Mitchum told her, oh, you don't got it. I think she also grew up thinking, oh, she was the exception. She was going to be a journalist. She wasn't very exposed to failure. And because that's sort of like what people implied towards her growing up, that really threw her off. And so I think that's what made her go into the spiral of wanting to drop out of Yale, completely changing her character. At this point, I kind of understood where she was coming from in the sense of, okay, well, I've worked hard for everything. This one journalist who's really high up doesn't think I've got it. You know, what am I even working towards? I don't condone her stealing a book. However, I think it should be stressed that people around her should have been there to pull her back. I know Lorelai tried, but I think Emily and Richard should have been a little bit more firm. Okay, so now that we're on the topic of it, let's talk about her entitlement, which is another thing people often bring up. So she always got what she wanted, I would say, for the most part. Even at Yale, she paid a guy $20 so that she could sit under a tree or something. She definitely was entitled, and she was incredibly privileged. And people were even saying, like on social media, Rory believed that just because her mother went through hardships, that hardship applies to her. One thing that did really get me about her privilege though, and also another thing that people have been saying on social media, is that when Rory wrote the paper and read it to Logan about being at that party, and it was like a bunch of elitists and everyone has a trust fund, things like that, people were saying it was good that Logan called her out for that. I was like, well, yeah, like your grandparents are rich too, you have a trust fund too. I saved like best for last, but how her character develops and changes in the earlier seasons when the boyfriends are introduced and when the boyfriends are in the picture. I know people mainly started to dislike her when Jess comes into the picture and how she treats Dean throughout those events. I have quite a bit to say about that. Okay, we're gonna talk about Dean. When it comes to Rory's relationship with Dean, people are very quick to label Rory as a gaslighter or Dean as a manipulator. One or the other, you don't really get both. Was Rory a gaslighter? I don't think so. I went into Gilmore Girls already knowing people's thoughts and views, these thoughts and views specifically about Rory. I would say Dean was a good boyfriend in the beginning. And let's keep in mind, Dean was Rory's first boyfriend. Her first exposure to romantic love, all that. He was really sweet, he was really caring, and he tried to express his love to Rory. But he did have his faults. He quickly became too caring and too obsessive and too clingy. Like when he left her 14 messages, come on, that would scare anyone away, okay? Even Lorelai tried to tell him off. He was very defensive towards Rory when she didn't say I love you back the first time. He became so defensive. I was watching that scene and I was thinking, what is this guy doing? What are you doing? Like, you're scaring her away. And I think that was kind of based off of his own insecurities. It's okay, we all have them. So not only was he defensive then, but he was also very defensive when Jess came into the picture. So right when Jess gets into the picture, people are very quick to say, Rory was gaslighting Dean. She was saying that she doesn't have feelings for Jess. Okay, hold on. Have you ever been confused about your feelings? Considering that Dean was Rory's first boyfriend, she is new to all of this. It annoys me so much when people are saying like, oh, she's a gaslighter. She was not a gaslighter. She was figuring out her feelings for people. She was trying to distinguish between her romantic feelings towards Jess and Dean. Dean was her first boyfriend. She loved Dean and she didn't want to betray him, but she also didn't understand her feelings towards Jess, and she was put in those situations where she was trying to be nice, but it came off as her being romantic or having feelings for Jess, even though she was just trying to understand her feelings, please. Yeah, so I think she was very much trying to suppress those feelings of loving Jess, or liking Jess, I mean, because she was made to think that she could only love one person at a time. Dean probably felt very threatened, which is why he was so angry with Jess all the time, and honestly, why he would take out that anger on both Jess and Rory. Like in that one episode where Rory's home alone and Paris comes over and then Jess comes over to drop off food, and then Dean comes over and he's like, what's he doing here? And then he's yelling at Rory. He doesn't even trust Rory enough. And Rory's like, okay, I literally was just trying to do laundry. And then both of them showed up and I can't just say leave or anything to them. Obviously, I think from Dean's perspective it could look very weird. I think he should have trusted Rory enough to believe her or to at least just have a mature conversation about it, because that's something I feel like they've never done. Rory's relationships with both Dean and Jess, I would say, didn't have the best communication. In the end, she is just a teenage girl going through the trials of love for the first time. However, the one thing I can't excuse her for is deliberately sleeping with Dean even though he was married. And her excuses after that were just horrible. They're both in the wrong. Dean kind of wasn't very clear. However, when it comes to Logan, in A Year in the Life, she knew he was engaged and still pursued a relationship with him. Logan was so set on Rory marrying him after graduation, and now he just expects her to be a mistress. Hello? It's very aggravating. It's very aggravating. Now on to Jess. When it comes to Rory and Jess, Jess was underwhelming as a boyfriend, to say the least. I think their relationship, when they weren't dating, I think their relationship then was much stronger and better and much clearer in communication than it was when they were dating. I remember I was so excited to see how their relationship would play out, and then when they started dating in the show, I was so disappointed. All they were doing was either arguing or making out. And also I feel like we didn't have enough screen time of them actually having a relationship. However, even when they were in a relationship and when they weren't, I think they really did push each other to be better versions of themselves. At the beginning, Rory showed Jess the life that he could have, and then it's a full circle moment when Jess is telling Rory, like, this isn't you. Like, you wanted to be a journalist. And then he shows her the book he wrote. And then even when he comes in A Year in the Life and he's like, write a book, write whatever comes to mind, write what you feel from the heart. I think that also really guided her towards her passions and finding what was her calling in life. Okay, so that's really all I have to say about Jess. So now on to Logan. To be honest, I think he definitely was the better boyfriend of the three, although I did not like him at first. I thought he was snobby and entitled. I really didn't like him when he cheated on Rory with the bridesmaids or something. However, I think the relationship definitely did progress, and he was unafraid to call her out for the things that she did wrong. He was also very good in communicating with her, and then that eventually turned Rory into a better communicator. He was very good at understanding his wrongs as well as Rory's and sort of grounding both of them. However, I think his ultimatum, marriage proposal was really weird, and then also how he willingly cheated on his fiance with Rory. So though I can defend Rory for some of her actions, there are obviously others that I absolutely cannot. She has her faults and her mistakes. She is fictional, so in the end, I'm glad that she finds her calling for writing. Rory is a character that still has so much potential beyond A Year in the Life that I would really like to see explored. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment down below about your own opinions about Rory Gilmore and her character growth and development, or lack thereof. So subscribe and like and share this video, and I will see you guys